Monsanto requires farmers or growers who buy their genetically modified seeds to sign the Monsanto Technology Stewardship Agreement found online that says, Growers' exclusive remedy. The exclusive remedy of the growers and the limit of the liability of Monsanto or any seller for any and all losses, injury, or damages resulting from the use or handling of seed, including claims based in contract, negligence, product liability, strict liability, tort, or otherwise, shall be the price paid by the grower for the quantity of the seed involved, or, at the election of Monsanto or the seed sellers, the replacement of the seed. In no event shall Monsanto or any seller be liable for any incidental, consequential, special, or punitive damages.
I've been asked to comment on this legal waiver that Monsanto is asking farmers to sign before they use their genetically modified seeds. I suspect that what they are doing is creating organisms, creating little things that for now seem to be in the service of man. But once they've created them, can they put the genie back in the bottle? What if they turn out not to be exactly what they thought they were going to be? What if these organisms, although they do some good things, create problems more than they anticipated? And there's no way to stop that and the multiplication. And what if these organisms replace the original ones until finally the world can only have the newly created little Frankenstein seeds and plants and organisms? Will the Creator himself have to come in and say, stop? If that's our plan, I don't think it's well thought through. There has to be a way, I think, to make more people aware of the fact that we are playing with a force that we do not understand and probably never will. And they like to create the impression that people who are concerned about this, that those people are just old-fashioned fuddy-duddies. They're not very scientific. They're just worrywarts, and they don't really understand science at all. So they try to minimalize them and marginalize them. But I think the people who are concerned about those things are the smart ones, not the dumb ones at all. So that's my thought when I take a look at this little piece of paper here that has a legal disclaimer or a sign-off, a release. One of the giant manufacturing companies that makes all of these genetically modified organisms is called Monsanto. And this is their agreement. When they sell their genetically modified their seeds to the farmers, they ask the farmers to sign this waiver. And when you read this waiver, it's incredible. How could anybody sign this? I mean, obviously, I don't think people read this, or they wouldn't sign it. Nobody would be that silly. This waiver, in essence, says, we, Monsanto, want you, the farmer, who are paying us to buy our seeds, to accept full responsibility, whether our seeds get out of hand, whether they destroy other crops, whether there are farmers next to your farms that find that their crops are contaminated by the seeds from our genetically modified crops, and then they're going to sue you, which has already happened in Australia, by the way. Some farmers there have decided that the genetically modified crops that their neighbors have planted have crossed over the fields, and they've ruined their organic seeds, their traditional seeds, and they're taking these farmers to court. And they're suing them for the damages. We know, too, that in some countries, like in India, there's evidence that the livestock who get into the fields after these crops have been harvested, and the livestock go in and eat the leaves and the stalks left behind by the crops, which they've always been able to do for thousands of years with no problem at all. It was always healthy for the animals. Now the cattle and the sheep are going into these fields and they're eating the leaves and stalks of the genetically modified plants, and they're getting sick and they're dying. You know there are going to be lawsuits there. Monsanto knows there are going to be lawsuits there. The lawyers at Monsanto have sat around a big mahogany table and thought this all through, and they said, you know, there's some liability coming up here. We better get the the growers, the farmers, to sign off and assume all responsibility so that we won't have to deal with this. And that's what this little paragraph is all about. I don't see how anybody in their full mind could sign this. The only reason they would is because they haven't read it, or because they have faith in the big company. They probably think that, well, a big, nice company like that wouldn't do anything that wasn't proper, would they? And so they sign.
My name is Anthony Patchett. I'm a retired Assistant Head Deputy District Attorney of the Environmental Crimes OSHA Division. Since my retirement, I have focused on representing plaintiffs in environmental actions. I was asked to review the Monsanto agreement. I have reviewed that agreement, and in my opinion, it appears to be what we call a contract of adhesion. It is very one-sided and appears to be unconscionable. In the Monsanto Technology Stewardship Agreement, all liability shifts to the growers. This includes contamination, and farmers, you are subject to civil liability and being sued in court. Growers should know that the only thing they receive is the cost of the seed. They do not receive anything for being sued for contamination or for other issues that are there.
What I would like to do is, whatever I can, to make everyone aware not only of the dangers inherent in genetically modified foods, but also to make them aware of the liability that the farmers are assuming when they sign this statement. Why do I put those two together? Because companies like Monsanto are huge, they're powerful, they're very wealthy, and they're politically connected. I don't see how it's possible for the average person or some citizens commission concerned about the future of the planet or something like that to bring to force the power to stop these companies. They've already got the political influence they need to just hammer it through. But the Achilles heel is the farmer. If the farmer realizes that he is being taken for a ride, that he is being dumped with all of the liability for this insanity, and that it's possibly going to cost him his farm and everything he's saved. I mean, I understand that when the farmers sign this, they can't even sell their property without the new buyer signing a similar agreement, because that's part of what they've agreed to with Monsanto in the beginning. So Monsanto picks up their farm, really. They can't even sell their farm without Monsanto's agreement. I think once people understand that, they're going to say no to these genetically modified crops. And if enough farmers say no, then that's the way I think we're going to solve this problem. That's my thought for today, and I'd like to do what I can to make that happen. And possibly we'll be trying to put together a documentary film to see if we can't bring together experts who know a lot of details about the legal ramifications of a statement like this, the scientists who have studied the genetically modified crops, the people who have been involved at the ground level as farmers, what's happened to them, what happens when these killer weeds come along after a few years. They get used to the genetically modified crops. The farmers have to go back to their traditional methods anyway by pulling the weeds out by hand. But it's too late. They've already signed the agreement. We want to get experts in all of these fields together, and we want them to tell this story. And then what we do with that is to pass it on to you, the public, and then you, the farmer.
To view the Monsanto Technology Stewardship Agreement and the full article with supporting links, click on the description box below. Please share this video and article, especially with farmers. This information is critical because they are buying seed for spring planting right now. Alfalfa is a particular problem because it is a perennial and will contaminate non-genetically modified plants.